It's so easy to take this for granted. It's something we've developed technologies to be able to produce pretty simply. It's pretty beautiful in its own way, elegant in how it moves, how it dances, it's cool to imagine how gravity has an effect on fire. But what I really want to get at here is, how's it made? No, really, what is fire? Somebody would say that, well, it's when you add fire to something and it lights up. Well, you still need a source of fire. Then they would often say, well, you need to add a fuel source to something. You take fuel and you can burn fuel. Getting closer, getting better. But what is burning? Burning is a chemical reaction. It's the chemical reaction between the fuel source and oxygen, and that chemical reaction releases heat. That's what we see as fire, the heat coming from that chemical reaction. And for us to understand that chemical reaction, we're going to have to understand what a chemical reaction equation is. So let's have a look at a chemical reaction equation. Let's explore a chemical reaction equation using water. Water is a really well-known substance. Its chemical equation is H2O, so it's made from 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. But how it's formed is from a hydrogen gas molecule and a oxygen gas molecule. Those 2 molecules can chemically react with each other. A hydrogen gas molecule and an oxygen gas molecule, under the right circumstances, can chemically react with each other, and their combination can produce water. So, to understand how that happens, let's look at that chemical reaction equation that's happening with water. This is it here. There are 2 sides to this equation, just like there is in math. There's the left side and the right side. The left side in a chemical reaction equation is the reactants. So just like the name suggests, the reactants are the things that are chemically reacting with each other. And those chemical reactions will produce something. They produce the products. So as the name suggests, they are the things that are produced from the chemical reaction. They are the things that are produced from the reactants. So they are on the right hand side of the equation. Just like we kind of have in math, when you have like 2 plus 3 equals 5, the 2 and the 3 are the things you're putting together, kind of like with our water here, you're putting together oxygen and hydrogen, and what you're getting out of that equals the products, the things that you're trying to produce. Combustion is a chemical reaction, and we can look at combustion's chemical reaction equation. So something special about combustion, and kind of a theme for the first couple chemical reactions we're going to talk about here, are chemical reactions with oxygen. Combustion specifically requires oxygen. It's one of the 3 important parts to having fire. You need oxygen, fuel, and heat. So oxygen's a pretty important molecule on our planet, and for a number of reasons. And we're going to look at the 3 really important chemical reactions with oxygen. We're going to start first with combustion. So combustion is, again, a chemical reaction with oxygen. So looking at this chemical equation here, we can see that any fuel source chemically reacts with oxygen to form 2 key results, the products. You always end up with carbon dioxide, and you always end up with water. I want to show you guys one of my favorite videos that demonstrates combustion really well. It's made by one of my favorite YouTubers, ASAP Science, so definitely check them out if this catches your eye. They show what happens really well with the burning of virtually anything. The main component in wood, cellulose, is C6H10O5, but there's a whole bunch of other chemicals in there as well. It's not just this one chemical. There's also other ones, C6H12O6, And C5H12O6, all these different chemicals, they're part of wood. When they burn from, you have heat. This is your fuel source, the wood, and then the oxygen is added in from just the air that surrounds it. And what you get out of it, again, those two really important chemicals. You're getting CO2 coming off, and you're also getting water. You're getting H2O molecules coming off. Those two, again, really important products of the chemical reaction of, well, any fuel source with oxygen. You always end up with CO2 and H2O. Now wood, it burns fairly well. When it's burning perfectly, you get just CO2, but it doesn't always burn perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't completely break down the fuel source. Every now and then there's some other things produced, and that's where you get like the ash and other things. So these chemicals that are appearing up here, occasionally there's the dark stuff that comes off, the smoke particles and other things. So you notice if you've ever had a fire, when the fire is burning, like when it's burning really hot, when you really got it going, there is no smoke coming off of it, or at least there's very little. You mostly just see that heated up gas, the yellows and oranges and blues, but when it cools off, or when it's nearly done, so I'll skip way to the end, they show something really cool. As the log burns down, eventually it reaches a point where it's running out of fuel, and the ash starts getting produced really rapidly, right there. So at this point, perfect burning can't happen. There's either too little of fuel source, or there's too little heat because there's not enough fuel left. So it's not completely breaking down into water and carbon dioxide. You're ending up with all this ash coming out, and really that's what happens. Try putting out a fire. The second you put that fire out, all of this smoke comes billowing out, and this is what's happening here. It's incomplete combustion. It's not completely burning the wood, but it's partially burning it. Notice that most of these molecules, they're not C6H12O5 or something like that. They're much smaller molecules, like CH4. There's some bigger ones here, but like CH4 here, like a lot of C6H6, a lot smaller molecules are starting to come off of this. Again, like they are burning, they are breaking apart the carbons and hydrogens and oxygens, but not perfectly. They're not breaking them down as much as they could. But again, that's chemical reactions. We're not going to worry about all of these other potentials. What you guys need to know is that combustion is the result of a fuel source combining together with oxygen, so those are the two reactants, and they're producing carbon dioxide and water. So the stuff back here, you're ending up with carbon dioxide and water as the two main components of stuff coming off. Let's chat about another type of burning that's pretty significant in your lives. I know you guys have all felt that burning inside of you, and it's actually a chemical burn. Whenever you do absolutely anything, even me moving my hands like this requires energy. Where does that energy come from? It's actually from burning inside of your body. It's a special kind of burning, though. It's called cellular respiration. It's where your body takes sugar, and inside of a certain organelle, inside of each of your cells, it burns the sugar. It goes through chemical combustion and literally breaks the sugar down into, you guessed it, water and carbon dioxide. Hint, that's why you have to breathe out carbon dioxide. It's because you're constantly breaking down the sugars. The byproduct, the leftovers, is the carbon dioxide. You got to get rid of that. So the chemical combustion inside of your body is leaving you with something that you have to get rid of, or else it prevents you from getting more oxygen in. And where does the oxygen come from to cause that burning to happen? You guessed it, from you breathing in. So your whole breathing process is actually fueling your combustion. The little tiny fires, there's no actual fire inside of you, but the little tiny combustion chemical reactions that are happening in every single cell in your body. Oxygen comes in, reacts with the sugar in your body, and then carbon dioxide and water comes out. You also know that the water has to come out as well. Whenever you're breathing in wintertime, you can definitely see that water coming out. You can't see it, like right now, you can't see any water coming out, but in wintertime, the second you take a breath outside when it's cold, you see that water condense into water vapor. Another type of chemical reaction that you're familiar with is corrosion. Now, it might not be one that you really think about on a daily basis, but rust is corrosion. It's a chemical reaction between iron and oxygen. Again, there's the theme of chemical reactions with oxygen in this video. Oxygen being a really important chemical in our lives. So corrosion, again, it's a chemical reaction between iron and oxygen. That it doesn't have to be iron. Lots of things can corrode. Silver can corrode. Almost any metal can corrode. It can chemically react with oxygen and form an oxide chemical compound. In fact, that's even what happens inside of your blood. The iron that's in your blood, that's where the oxygen binds to. To bring that oxygen around your body has to chemically bond the iron that's in your blood cells with the oxygen that's in your lungs, and that's how it binds it, that's how it carries it around your body. Eventually it can reach a point where it can release that oxygen, and then it'll receive a carbon dioxide, and then it goes back to your lungs. That's corrosion. That's a corrosion chemical reaction. Again, the most common one that you think about when you think of corrosion, though, is something like the rust on a car. That is a chemical change. That when the oxygen specifically chemically reacts with the iron in a car, it actually changes it. It's no longer iron, it's no longer oxygen, it's iron oxide, a brand new chemical. And it has a fairly different consistency. So much of it has changed. Again, think about our evidence of chemical change. The color has changed. Its strength, the strength of the material has gone completely down. It goes from iron, this thing that seems almost impenetrable, to rust, which you can break apart with your fingers. It's a totally different chemical. And that's what we should expect from chemical reactions. You're forming something new. Let's chat about a few more chemical reactions that you commonly find around your house. Cooking is a huge one. When you cook something, you're chemically changing it. That's the nature of cooking. You're adding enough heat so that chemical reactions can occur. That's why you end up with different flavors, different smells. The colors change. There's a lot of differences between cooked and uncooked stuff. Your biggest piece of evidence for chemical change, though, is the inability to uncook something. Remember, chemical changes, they're much more difficult to reverse. So taking something like a carrot, when you cook it and it becomes soft and flimsy, you can't uncook a carrot. It doesn't go back to that crispy thing it was. And another piece of evidence when you cook a carrot is the color change. It's a very subtle color change, but your carrots go from that bright orange to a slightly more pale orange. There's still a color change. That still tells you that there have been some changes in the chemicals inside of your carrot. I've given the example before, but an egg, when you cook an egg, like you change the proteins inside of it. You chemically change it so that it goes from a clear, transparent jelly into a white, opaque solid. And that's, again, chemical change. Another one in your household is like when you use bleach. When you bleach your hair or you bleach your clothes, the colors actually change. Again, evidence of chemical change. Bleach is actually chemically altering what's inside of your clothes, namely the pigments. It's destroying the pigments that give some clothes a blue color or give it a red color. Another type of chemical reaction like corrosion in your household, like everyone's silver corrodes over time. It goes from that bright shiny metal down to it develops this like darkish tinge to it. Something really cool about gold, gold doesn't corrode. It's really interesting. That's why it was so expensive and so sought after by monarchies in the past. You could create a suit of armor out of gold and it would never corrode. It would stay just as shiny forever, which is pretty different from, say, silver or iron. Eventually they would start chemically reacting. The iron armor, whether it's a chainmail or a plate armor, would begin rusting. And obviously that doesn't look so good, and it's not exactly all that safe. if you have rusted chainmail, the strength of the iron's gone. Much more easy to break. That chainmail doesn't keep the night very safe, does it? So some things will react more readily than other things. Like not everything reacts at the exact same chemical rate, and we're going to talk about that more fairly soon here. How the rate in which chemical reactions change, but that's for a later video. For now, I just want you to begin recognizing that everything can chemically react, but in different ways, and at different speeds, and under different conditions. Iron usually only rusts when it gets wet. That's part of the conditions for rusting. Now, it doesn't have to get wet for it to begin rusting, but kind of speeds things along. Let's recap. We've talked about two key processes. We've talked about combustion and corrosion and how they play a vital role in both your bodies and our societies. They're happening all around us. Combustion is when you take something that can be burned and you chemically react it with oxygen to produce heat, carbon dioxide, and water. When you're burning wood, you don't often see that water because it turns to vapor pretty quick, but when you're burning wood, you can certainly see it. It's kind of cool. You see it right on the edge when it first starts burning. Before it gets really, really hot, you can see a little bit of water forming around where the fire is. And combustion going on inside your body right now. Cellular respiration. It's a combustion chemical reaction with oxygen, and you can absolutely feel cellular respiration going on in your body when you start working out. When you start running and moving and burning more sugar, you are literally releasing more energy. That's why you need more oxygen. That's why you breathe heavier. You're trying to get more oxygen in to burn more of that sugar, and you got to breathe more of that carbon dioxide out, so you're panting really heavily. So combustion, chemical reaction that involves burning. Then there's also corrosion. Corrosion is the chemical reaction of metals with oxygen in the air. Common example of that is rusting. When the oxygen in the air chemically reacts with iron to form an iron oxide, it turns to that orangish material. And the same goes for virtually any metal. Eventually, when you expose a metal to the oxygen, it will chemically react. The only exception to that really is gold. Gold is surprisingly unreactive. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for listening in. Till next time.